foundation for life cycle refrigerant management, as without safe refrigerant recovery, there cannot be reclamation or reuse. A-Gas Rapid Recovery is an on-site refrigerant recovery service that gives businesses an easy way to contain their used refrigerants.
Not a whole lot of companies do what we do. We handle some of the grunt work that they don't want to do, and we can do it 10 times as fast as they can. The recovery portion, the cylinder exchanges, and buying back used material that otherwise can't be used.
We play a big role with our contractors, whether that be HVAC, mechanical, or demolition contractors. Our whole purpose is to get on site and not only help them save money in the project, but offer an environmental solution.
We do not want any of these products getting vented to atmosphere, no matter how low the GWP is. Now it's not only the cylinder to recover the product, but it's making sure the technicians have equipment that are rated to work with flammable gases. That's really important for people.
So by us being able to contain it in the cylinders, reclaim it, we're saving the environment one recovery at a time.
My name is Mike Idle. Today I wanted to give you an overview of Amatrol's T7300 HVAC control system. This system is designed to align a hands-on workstation, as you see here, along with interactive curriculum to teach the operation, installation, application, and troubleshooting of control systems related to the HVAC industry. As components and features of HVAC systems get smarter in both the residential and commercial fields, it's important for current and future HVAC technicians to be trained up what types of circuits are used. Familiarity, learning, operation, maintenance, troubleshooting are all important areas to cover in that.
Here at NAVAC, we are obsessed with delivering the best HVAC tools on the market. Our tools are built for professionals and engineered for precision, just like Harley-Davidson motorcycles. NAVAC Nation, it's time for you to feel the power both on and off the job site. Let's stand up in our pursuit of perfection. From coast to coast, NAVAC forges the path forward. Wherever you are, we will be right beside you.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us again on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. We are so grateful that we're hanging out with you today. We want to thank our sponsors for this week, Daikin, NAVAC, A-Gas, Lincoln Tech, and Amatrol. They are founding sponsors of this gorgeous mobile studio that we're broadcasting from. And we have this wonderful opportunity to discuss education and technology every week, and it's because of them that we have this opportunity. And today we have a very special guest. I keep talking about how our community is growing. You know, we see in the chat every week technicians and educators joining from abroad. So today we have a very special guest with us, Roland Habet. Dr. Roland Habet, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I always like to ask everyone to let us know where they're joining in from so we can see how large this community is growing. I'm here in Brownsburg, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. Where are you joining from?
I'm joining from Kuwait recently, and I'm Lebanese. I live in Kuwait.
Fantastic. You know, Dr. Roland had reached out about, education and helping people understand curriculum. Todd's joining us from Southern California. Todd, I appreciate you joining. Todd was going to jump in here if we had any kind of technical difficulties and do a backup show. Todd's going to be running a show here in a few weeks when I take a vacation right after the National HVACR Education Conference. I'm going to be taking a week off to get some things done. Katie joining us from Missouri, newest certified master HVACR educator, joining us today. Thank you, Katie. Todd, as well as a certified master HVACR educator. Todd's had his for a few years. That's one of the things that ESCO Institute and HVAC Excellence focuses on is constant development. And oh yeah, quite a few people join us. Murph over in Jersey Shore. Hey, we're glad that you're joining us today too. So,
hello everyone. It's good to see you all.
It is great, isn't it? It's wonderful seeing our community growing. And today we're not going to be diving into the technical side. We're going to be diving into one of the tools that all of us as educators need help with. And that's in curriculum. So tell us a little bit about your experience with curriculum and why it's so important for us here in the US to understand what's going on around the world.
All right, so basically I'd like to start that I am a teacher in the beginning. So I started my job as a teacher and I'm so passionate about teaching. I started my career in a classroom with students, and here I was able to realize the needs of my students. So that's why I was able to go out of the classroom walls and dig actually into the curriculum designing. I found out that based on the students' needs, you can design the curriculum. And this is what I like about curriculum designing, simply because it makes you shape what you want to be in the class, what you want your students to be later on, what the skills you want to teach them, and what kind of a teacher you want to be.
You know, when I think about our audience, I see a bunch of educators that spent time in the field as technicians. West Palm Beach, Florida, thanks for joining us there. Many of us as technicians, when we become educators, we know how to teach what we did in the field, but we may not understand exactly what we're teaching or the outcomes. We don't know the assessments to attach to things. And so many times when we think about a curriculum and we're going to introduce a curriculum into the classroom, we start from the very beginning and go, okay, this is where I started, knowing nothing, and I'm going to go forward and we're going to learn some things along the way. Right? That's very common. And in Kuwait, you were saying that you actually follow U.S. curriculum design.
Yes, we follow my school. The school that I teach and actually has the American curriculum. We follow the Common Core standards, all right, but we make a lot of adjustments as well in order to make it fit to the culture of Kuwait. And we did the same in Lebanon. Like we take the curriculum, like the Common Core standards, we take the American curriculum, but we make it fit with the culture and with the country we're living in, because you have to adjust it based on your students, based on the culture, based on the country you live in. So once you modify, you will be able to have like this kind of alignment between the standards as well as the culture you live in. And this is so important.
Yeah, even here, I see educators from all over the country. I haven't seen any from abroad yet, but definitely I see Todd in California. I see Katie in the Midwest. I see Murphy in the Northeast. I see Jephthah in Florida. And so, oh, good point, Todd. I forgot about that. Todd actually does some education for South African students. And so, he's had that experience of, what does the curriculum look like? And then how do we customize that for our local area? Because Todd in California is probably not going to be teaching oil heat like Patrick Murphy would be doing in the Northeast. And Jephthah down in Florida is not going to be teaching heat pumps like Katie is in the Midwest. So
I guess this is the best part about teachers, by the way, the flexibility. They have this kind of flexibility to be able to be shapeless. You know what I mean? Like now, if I'm in Kuwait, I teach in a different way than when I was in Lebanon or when I moved to somewhere else. So this kind of shapeless approach that the teacher has, the flexibility the teacher has, this is awesome. This is really awesome.
Yeah. So if we think about it, the way that you're approaching this, and it's when you and I had this conversation, it made me rethink about my own curriculum. It made me think differently about how I build courses, even just for like our national HVACR education conference. It's going to be here in just over a week. And I have a couple of classes I'll be doing. I started from ground zero and I started building up until I got tired of building. And I was like, okay, this is the end of the course. And that's really not focused on what the outcome of my class would be. So you take a completely opposite approach to that. Hey, Froggy, thanks for joining us. Yeah, it's been a while since you've been here. Yeah, teach to understand, not just remember. Thank you. So where do we begin?
Okay. So first, I need just to highlight one important aspect is that teaching is totally different than playing. So this is what we want to highlight in our meeting today. So I'm going actually to talk about the backward vertical alignment for curriculum development. But before I do so, I'd like to ask our guests to they can scan this QR code or click on this link. There is only one question. It's going to take seconds just to answer the question. It's a multiple choice question.
Okay, I got mine. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes.
Yes, please.
This is intriguing too, because it goes along with a class that I do of how there was a generational change in the way we teach in schools, particularly K through 12, where I grew up in a linear education where now things are a little bit more modular. And so many of us instructors, particularly my age and older, are struggling with today's learners, not realizing that they were taught in a different fashion than we were taught, 30 some years ago.
Okay, so based on your experience, what would your answer be?
Well, I'd kind of start from the beginning because I was brought up in a linear education. Like if I was presented a book on how to use a fork, I wasn't told what the fork was used for at the beginning. I started on page 1, and by the end of the book, I understood. But it's not always the best way.
Okay. All right. So with the first lesson, you would say, we would go with the first lesson. Okay. I'm gonna keep your answer here. I'm not gonna debate it, but by the end of our meeting, I'm gonna ask you the same question, and what do you think?
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. All right. Great. So in order to explain the idea of vertical alignment, I'd actually like to have it implemented. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you a picture. Okay, it's just like a road trip. So let's say imagine that you're planning a road trip. All right, and this is all the information I'm giving you. So I'm going to ask you and our participants just type the steps you would take to prepare. Whatever comes to your mind, just write it down or just share it with me. What would you do?
Okay. I'm going to find my road atlas. I'm going to find my emergency supplies. Then I'm going to pack my suitcase. Then I'm going to fill up the fuel tank. And then I'm going to start working on what's my path and where am I going.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do you think any of our guests want to answer?
Oh, yeah. And the chat's wide open. If anyone we'd love for you to join us and give us your thoughts. Where do you begin planning your trip? Some people might start with pricing places. Some people might look at, do I fly or do I drive?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Because I'm married and I know that two people can have two totally different ways of planning for a trip.
This is absolutely right. Okay, so let me give you the same scenario, but I changed something hickey, small.
Yep.
Now let's try to have the same scenario again. This time, the situation is a little different. You need to drive to Chicago and you must arrive by tomorrow afternoon.
Oh,
So, what are the steps you're going to take in order to prepare for this?
I guess the first thing I'm going to have to do is figure out how far it is from where I am to
Uh-huh.
where I'm going to go,
Okay.
and determine which route would allow me to get there in time. And then I'm going to have to determine who all's going with me, because that'll determine whether I'm taking one potty break an hour or 5 an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
how much do I want to spend on toll? And is there any routes that I just don't want to go?
Okay. Um, can you pinpoint the differences in your answers between the first scenario and the second?
Yeah, the second one, I was thinking about the destination, whereas the first one, I was thinking about the preparation for where I began, where I'm starting.
Um, okay. So here, um, I want to ask, when you felt easier to plan?
I think the second one.
The second one. And how would you describe the first scenario?
Oh, in one word?
Yes.
Anxiety.
I like this. And in one word, how would you describe the second scenario?
Thoughtful.
Thoughtful. Okay. So, did the destination change the steps you planned?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How so?
Because at least for myself, if I don't know exactly where I'm going, I get anxiety about getting there, because there's a lot of
Oh,
unknown. Because there's just a lot more unknown, or a lot more potential variables if I don't exactly know the destination.
yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And what do you think, or what role did the destination play on your planning process? Like when I gave you the destination, I told you that tomorrow by afternoon you have to be in Chicago. How does this help your planning?
Well, actually, I I kind of work backwards a lot, because if I know that Chicago is my destination, I'm going to start looking for the routes coming back from Chicago to see, where they're going. That can quickly determine, am I going through the Dakota? Am I going through rocky ground or flat ground or
Hmm.
mountain ground? And
Yeah.
it could change my path faster than just starting out and going, okay, I'm already headed this direction. Which way do we go? Which my wife tells me all the time. I'm bad at that. Like, we'll talk about we need to go somewhere, and I start the vehicle and I'm already driving, and she's going, wait a minute, you don't even know where you're going. And I'm going that way. It's
Yeah.
that way. And I'll find a route to get there on the way.
I'm
And I know
actually
that that's not
happy.
the best route. I've been told often.
I'm really happy you brought this up, because actually this is like our daily life experiences. Like this is what we are experiencing in daily life.
Okay.
This actually brings me to the key realization, which is the distance determines the journey, not vice versa. Okay, so when we know where we are going, it becomes much easier to decide what steps to take, what resources we need, what decisions matter most. So simply because you know your destination, you can actually think of all of these. All right. And why am I bringing this up? I'm talking about road trips, Chicago, and whatsoever, simply because I want to apply this principle to how we design learning.
Okay.
So, so here I
That
want
makes
to
sense. Why
tell. So in so many training programs, we designed the curriculum like scenario number one. Okay, we start with the first chapter, we move through content topics sequentially. Okay, but
Yep.
and actually we hope that by the end of the course, students will develop the necessary skills. But effective training programs work more like scenario number two. They begin by defining where learners must eventually actually arrive. Okay? And once that destination is clear, we start designing the pathway that leads there. And this is the idea of backward vertical alignment.
Okay, because we're still accomplishing the same task, and all
Exactly.
of the content is still there. It's should just be in a different location, a different direction than
And it's more organized. Like the first thing you said, like the adjective you used, you were anxious. Like
yeah,
because you didn't know the destination, you felt this kind of anxiety. All right.
right.
So if you
Yeah.
are systemized and if you are organized in some way, you're definitely gonna be thinking about all the things you are going to go through. So this lacks your anxiety, or at least you're not anxious where to reach. You know where you're going to reach. So here you're just thinking about the ways to reach where you want to reach. You know what I mean?
Okay. I think I do. So
Yeah.
I'm one of those teachers that's death by PowerPoint. I love visuals, so sometimes I have too many visuals. So
Mm-hmm.
like I've been working on a PowerPoint for one of the classes at our conference. I mean, it's done now, but as I've worked on it, I had a concept of what I wanted the class to be, and so I started at the very beginning with slide 1. I probably could have started the very first slide as what the class was supposed to be about and have it at the end. Is that correct?
Okay, let me correct this. If you are teaching, no, you cannot do that. But if you're
Okay.
planning, so this is when I say
Ah,
that teaching is different than planning. We plan
sure.
backward, but we teach forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Now
So
it's
the thing
making
is
sense.
that, yes. So when you want to plan for your class, a plan backward. This is so beneficial because you put in mind the outcome and then you start working on to reach for the outcome. So planning backwardly, it's fine. But when you want to teach it, you will definitely going to teach forward because the students won't be able to understand if you're giving the lesson like a reversed lesson. You know what I mean? So that's
Sure.
why teaching is different than planning. This is what we want. Yani, I don't want people to misunderstand the idea of backward vertical alignment. The backward vertical alignment isn't there when you teach backward. We don't want you to teach backward, but we want you as educator or as a teacher to know where is your destination. You have to know where your destination is. So once you are able to make your destination so clear, you will be able to put all the points backwardly to reach where you have to start. So once you start, everything is going to be clear. So if you look at this model here, okay?
Yep.
So this is the backward vertical alignment. As you can see, if you look at the yellow part, it is the final field performance, or what we call, and this is for the vocational schools. If we're
Yep.
going to speak about academic schools, it's like where you want your students to reach. What is the skill or what is the thing that you want your students to learn?
The task.
All right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So when we speak of the final performance, so here we're defining what learners should be able to do at the end. Okay? Then, after you put the outcome, you put what your learners want to learn, you think of the competencies. So you have to
Oh,
identify the knowledge and the skills required to reach that outcome. So if I want to keep in mind the outcome, I also need to know the skills that my students need to have in order to reach the outcome. Next, we design the assessments that allow learners to demonstrate those competencies.
right.
Okay?
Instead of building the assessments first, we're building the assessments in alignment with what the competencies are of the task.
Exactly. And this is when we speak of reliability and validity of your assessment.
Yeah,
I cannot assess my students about a grammar lesson that I didn't teach.
right.
I cannot do that. So if I want to speak of reliability of assessments and validity of assessments, I need to have my students' skills and knowledge acknowledged as well. Then we go to the practice lab or applications when we create opportunities for learners to practice and apply those skills. Finally, we design the lesson or we instruct the lesson that builds the knowledge. So here I started with the yellow one when we plan, but when we teach, we have to start with the blue one. This is the difference between teaching and planning.
That's crazy to think that. I mean, when you do that, I go, well, why wouldn't I have been doing that from the beginning? Because I never laid it out that way. If I lay it
Yes.
out that way, it's going to completely align my outcome with my start.
Yeah. So if we go back in time, looking at this structure, many courses, when we speak of planning, they would start with lessons and instructions, but it is more valid to when you want to plan to start with the yellow instead of the blue. So when
Yeah, 'cause that way,
teaching, start with the blue. When planning, start with the yellow.
yeah, because then we're just filling in the blanks. When we know what the outcome of the class is, we move back to the competencies. What does it take to accomplish this? Do I have assessments to prove that they have those competencies? Did I provide the labs to prepare them for the assessments? And did I have the lessons and instruction that go along to set them up for the labs?
Yeah, and keep in mind, like if you
Oh,
have all of these, like if you know the outcome, if you know the skills you want to teach, if you do your assessments, if you have the labs or the applications, then creating your lesson plan is going to be a piece of cake because
yeah.
you have everything.
It's kind of plug and play. I'm
Yeah.
creating a tree of all of my content.
You're absolutely right. So here, when we speak of curriculum planning, you start with the final outcome. But when you speak of teaching process, start with the first lesson. This is how we think and we speak of the vertical alignment.
Wow. Any questions out there? Because this is very intriguing for me because it helps simplify the best way to create curriculum. Because in my mind, I'm creating curriculum like I'm teaching the class. Like, where do I begin? What's next? Instead of thinking about them completely opposing each other as I'm creating and laying out the content.
I can see something that I would like to share as a teaching experience, like as a teacher in the class.
Sure.
When I plan for any lesson, let's say I want to teach a certain skill for my grade 12 students. Okay, so if I want to teach this skill, I plan in my mind why, when, and why, and how they are going to use this skill. Is it something that's going to be helpful to them? Like, if I want to teach them how to think critically, is it something helpful to them in their life after school? in their analysis in other subjects, if they are learning science, math, English, Arabic, whatsoever. Is critical thinking applicable there? So if I want to have this as the final outcome, I will be able to plan easily how to implement this outcome. So I choose the lesson that makes them think critically. I choose the perfect characters to make inferences, to read between the lines, to guess, to foreshadow, to allocate all the literary devices. So because I want to teach them this skill, I was able to plan the perfect lesson for the skill, the perfect strategy, the perfect assessment, simply because I have a clear outcome.
Could you back up a slide for me to that tree, to that layout?
Sure, sure.
Because you're really making me think about a curriculum that I put together. I put together one called High Performance Heat Pumps, and the goal was to be able to create a training that qualified the technicians for a Department of energy skilled recognized certification. And well, I'm thinking back about when I put all this content together. I started at the beginning. Like, I want you to know this, and when you learn this, you'll learn this next, and you'll learn this, and you'll learn all this. And then when I got to the end, I went, okay, now what's the requirements for energy skill? Let me make sure that I plug all of that in on top of the things that I already did. If I would have put that up at the competencies, it would guaranteed that my content would have aligned with that energy skilled certification.
So if I want to ask you about the thinking of the backward vertical alignment, what would you change?
I would absolutely start with this. What am I trying to accomplish with my training? And put that as my very first thing. That'd be my final field performance, because that's what I want this class. I want my student to accomplish this. This is the goal.
Yeah.
And then I would start with, and what competencies is it going to take to accomplish that? The lesson would be the last part of my construction. And in the past, it's always been my first. It's where I began.
Actually, it's been the case for so many teachers. I'm one of them. I used to start with the first chapter, first lesson. I used to design my lesson plan and go to school, apply the lesson. But
Yeah.
in many times, I would feel so confused. I would give students things that actually useless. It's just like messing up with the lesson, you know what I mean? Simply because they don't use it, they don't need it. So when I started planning backward, I realized that I'm more systemized and organized. I started to remove things that are really useless. And the best thing that I experienced, the time management. In my classes now, when I do the annual breakdown, I am never too early or too late. And this is the best part about it. Yes. Like, because the planning is organized, I feel that I have a good time management. I plan my time almost perfectly.
Well, Roland, I can tell you one of the things that we encounter constantly here in the United States is our vocational training programs 30 years ago had a lot more hours in the training program than they have today. But they're expected to teach more competencies, or at least more modern technologies than they were in the past. And almost every instructor, when we, as an institution, when we inform the program that they're going to need to teach these new competencies, immediately they go, I don't have enough time in my program. People are asking me to do more with less time, and I don't know how to do that. This is how you do that. Yeah. You still have your program outcome as your final field performance, This is what my administration is expecting of my program. Now let's go down and see what are the immediate competencies that align with this. Let me make
Yeah,
sure that I
and by the
got the
way,
assessments.
yeah, I want to add something here, just not to make,
Sure.
I don't want anyone to be overwhelmed when it comes to the backward vertical alignment, simply
Oh, we
because
love to overwhelm people.
now, what I want to say is that this can happen up on or at different levels. Like vertical
Sure.
alignment can happen in the same grade level, and it
Yep.
can happen K to 12, K to 5, 6 to 12. Like you can use vertical alignment in every single let's say level you are teaching or implementing. So if I'm talking about like middle high school, I'm going to talk about my experience as middle high school teacher. All right, I have grade 6, let's say, up till grade 12. If I make my plan that grade 12, by the end of grade 12, students have to know, for example, 5 types of writing techniques or genres. Okay. So I can actually divide these 5 genres up on 5 years. So
Yeah.
instead of teaching all genres to grade 6, I can start with grade 6, teaching them how to write a proper paragraph with a proper topic sentence. Grade 7, they can start writing 2 body paragraph essay. Grade 8, they can write like essay with, let's say, persuasive and argumentative. Grade 9, they can talk of narration and expository, blah, 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 until we reach grade 12. So you have taught the whole writing genres. So your alignment was able to be divided into all these years simply because you have grade 12 out, and I need my students to know these skills by the end of grade 12.
Yeah. Your whole program can be built from the
Exactly.
exact same principle. Every
Exactly.
class or course becomes a competency as part of your program.
Very true. Very true. And you can use the vertical alignment on this wide example, or you can use it in a very small example, just like
Tomorrow's
your
class.
daily classroom. Your daily classroom. I want my students to learn this mini objective. I want them to know how to write a thesis statement. You know what I mean? So you put this outcome, and then you work how I am going to make my students understand this outcome, deliver this outcome. So this is the backward. Just in your planning, you plan in a backward way, but you teach in a forward way.
I can divide my time out by having this.
Yes, because you will be able to eliminate all the useless things. There are a lot of things that we teach, and to the students or to the objective, it's useless. And that's why we need this standards. Like when you shared with me your standards, I loved them. I loved how they are so accurate and
Our competency and
perfect.
task list. Yeah.
Exactly. And definitely you can work on applying them on this kind of alignment, and you would do it in a perfect way.
You know, that's such a big struggle to put a program together and have everything time out properly. That's a very significant concern in the industry here. But if we take every task and we build it the same way, and every lesson and we build it the same way, our program becomes so structured that if we have to move a topic one day, it doesn't matter. My other lessons already planned in the same path in the same amount of time. I can substitute them along the way, and everything is still going to align properly.
Yeah, I actually used some of your competencies that you shared
Yes.
with me. This is the
Oh,
vocational technical level, and
wow.
I was able to categorize them on foundational, intermediate, and advanced. So if you want, as educator, if you want to plan your curriculum, you can start with the advanced training. Okay, this is how you plan it. And then you go down to the intermediate training, and then you go down to the foundational training. But when you want to teach it, you will start with the introduction to the HVAC systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, you aligned our competencies for our
Yeah,
curriculum.
actually I did like my best to put them in the correct categories. I'm
Yes.
sorry if I mix things up, but
It's
I don't have a
very,
huge
very
experience in
close.
the vocational.
I hope Professor Silberstein is on, or Howard Weiss, our president, is on, because they will appreciate this so much, because it is difficult to be able to tell an instructor, you need to teach these in your program. And the instructor says, well, where should I teach them? And we go, doesn't matter. That's up to you. Um, Now you have some templates to go, this is a very linear progression that you can
Yeah,
implement in your
it is
program to make
structured.
sure.
Yeah. I think, like, my personal opinion about it, like, I know teaching is something that is really nice, and you have to be yourself in the class, or you have to be this kind of engaged, blah blah blah. But when you are, as like, when you follow a system, when you are organized, things would be way better, especially for the students. When the
Sure.
students see how organized you are, things will be easier for them. They will understand the lesson in a better way, because they feel that you are organized, you know what you're doing, you know your stuff, you've done your homework. So the students feel it.
I've been in many a classrooms with other instructors, observing classrooms while I'm out traveling and visiting. And I'll see periodically a classroom where the students are not engaged. Maybe they're on their phone, and it's because it's not a very active lesson. And I'll ask the instructor, or I will ask one of the students, are your classes always like this? Oh no, we learned so much yesterday. We didn't have it in us to learn anything today. And I go, wow.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Very, very intriguing.
So yeah,
All
this
right.
is the idea of the backward vertical alignment, and I believe it's really beneficial when you want to plan for any lesson, or when you want to plan for a full curriculum. I believe it's so beneficial.
Yeah, indeed. So exciting to be able to, because I see these competencies and task lists all the time. I work with them, when I'm talking to other educators, because they'll ask, well, what should I teach to align with your certifications? Because these competencies align with our certifications, so that we can assure an instructor, if you're teaching all of these properly in your program is going to be aligned to the assessments, to the certifications. So we're
Sure.
helping build that out. And so this is a way for them to break that down and make sure that they're incorporating it into their time and into their program properly.
And it's very important that educators of different levels to meet there. Like, they need to meet at least twice a quarter, in order to catch up with the curriculum, in order to divide the lessons, or put them in categories: advanced, intermediate, foundational. So when educators meet and talk about it, they can actually build a very good curriculum.
Very exciting stuff. You put a lot of work into this. I'm very grateful for that.
Yep.
One of the things that you had mentioned earlier in our conversation, and I think it's such an important thing to help educators know that they're not alone in their new place in life. Many educators go from being good technicians to now being instructors, and they're learning a lot more about themselves. Do you mind sharing your story about how you found this side of learning and what motivated you to become a better educator? Because it's such a great story.
All right. So the thing is that, as I mentioned earlier, I am Lebanese. I've lived in Lebanon for all my life. This is my 5th year in Kuwait. So in Lebanon, I was a teacher and I loved my job a lot. I had this passion to education, and that's why I continued after bachelor. I continued my master's and then my PhD. So I actually in love in education, but coming from a country that goes through a lot of wars and conflicts, like political conflicts and a lot of stuff. We usually wake up on daily stressors that doesn't allow us to think out of the box. We just
Right.
think about our survival, how we're
Right.
going to survive our daily lives, how we're going to provide for our families, for our kids, a better life. Like, we don't have the privilege or the time to think about our personal growth. When I came to Kuwait and I started with Global Bilingual Academy, I realized that the basic needs for humans are provided without even thinking about it. So all these stressors weren't there. And because the stressors weren't there, I was able to think about my personal growth. I started thinking about education from a different perspective. I had time to be creative. I had time to work on my passion. The school I'm working with, the teachers, my HOD supported me in a way that I was thinking a lot out of the box, simply because I found myself as educator. And this is when I start working on providing professional developments, workshops, working on curriculum design. So simply because I have no stressors. So this is when we provide like a safe environment for our kids to be creative, to follow their dreams, and to like go after their what they dream of. So if you have this
Yeah.
kind of country that doesn't give you this everyday stressor, so why not to follow your dreams and think of your personal growth and think of your personal development? So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really what we're here for. We're here on this show in this community to help every one of our audience to continue that education. And I'm so proud of everyone for taking time out of their day to join us, because that's what we're all doing. We're becoming better. We're learning more about ourselves. We're getting more comfortable in teaching and mentoring minds. And learning these type of tools gives us more time to do that. I think about the instructors that are out here that are struggling to have more time in their classroom. And they're making sure that they're investing a lot of time to get all of the curriculum in, and they may not be taking just a little bit of time to step back and evaluate that curriculum.
Mhm.
Maybe you do have more than what is necessary. What is necessary to accomplish this curriculum? And I'm very grateful for you sharing that with us today. I've been reading some of the articles that you put out, and you're, obviously a very passionate person about education. And recently you posted something. It was actually, I seen it earlier in your slide, and it made me think about it again. And I'm asking everyone in the audience, there's still quite a few people that are joining us. Another way to help engage with your audience is a very simple one. And I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
Roland, What one word describes how you feel today?
I'm excited. I'm really excited because I feel that the world is becoming really small, so everyone can share their expertise, their ideas, and like we deserve this. We deserve this kind of development because we have a lot on our plates that we can share. We can be better people. We can raise better cultures and better generations. So I'm excited that we have a platform that we can start from. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Garrett is an instructor at Ivy Tech Community College here in Indiana, one of the HVAC Excellence accredited schools. I'm telling you, it's electric to be able to think about this, Garrett. You know, another thing that you wrote an article on, and I told you when I first was introduced to you, when you introduced yourself online, I always try to learn a little bit about people. And one of the articles that you put out recently, I'd like for people to listen to this. The goal is engagement, connection, and continuity. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a classroom provides is not just knowledge, it is structure, stability, and hope. And as educators, that resonates with a lot of us, that, you know, we're not just passing on knowledge. We're not just giving education. We're giving structure. You know, when I read that, and that's a wonderful article. I encourage anyone to follow Dr. Roland and read the entire article, because it helps us reflect as who we are as educators, right? We're not just passing on knowledge, we're passing on structure. And by using the backward vertical alignment to make sure that our classes are structured, we're actually giving our students structure. And some of our students may not have any structure, whether it's due to home life, whether it's due to politics, whether it's due to confrontations and war. It could be so many different things. They may not have structure. And when they come to our classrooms, if we provide education as well as structure, it changes their life. It changes every day, one day at a time. And it meant a lot to me. It was a very impactful message.
Yeah, actually, I thought about it because we've gone online due to the circumstances we are facing recently. I just wanted my students to know that even if we're going through a lot, we still can communicate. We still can have a certain task to do. We can be responsible. We can follow our duties. We have to have duties. We have to get out of our beds every single morning to see what we can do, because this is when we become more productive, more prolific, and we can find like a certain value of what we do.
Absolutely. I'm just responding to a message. Someone had just hopped onto the show and wants to know more about this article. I'm telling you, it's worth reading. So I encourage you all to hop on LinkedIn and find Dr. Habet. And I encourage you to connect and learn more. I'm really hoping that we have the opportunity to bring you to one of the national HVACR education conferences in the future. I see so much opportunity for you to give back to educators, and I'm grateful for your time today.
My pleasure. I'm really happy to be a part of this. Thank you so much. I shared my, just 1 minute. Okay, so thank you so much for this. Thank you for the participation, for the engagement. And I shared my contact, LinkedIn, my email, if there is anyone who wants to continue this conversation. If they have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Bella, thank you so much for joining us. We're grateful to have you here. All right, everyone, thank you so much. We're glad that you spent some time with us. I hope you're all going to be joining us at the National HVACR Education Conference here in just over a week. So excited. We'll be doing, we'll do a show next week. The following one, that week after the conference, I'm going to take off, and hopefully I'll have Todd on here. They're going to dive into some new and exciting innovations and technologies in the industry. Hey, grateful that you're a technician. There's a lot to learn. We do a lot of technical training on here as well. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, we appreciate your time today. We appreciate everyone. And we will see you all again next week on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. Bye, everybody.